All right, welcome here. Today we're going to be going over adverse advertising. So another ad idea, a marketing idea for Admonger. Admonger being the marketing firm. Adverse advertising. Um, so for help, this was just a note for myself, but for anybody else, this might help you kind of paint a picture of what I'm talking about here. Refer to the pre-ad ads used for advertising upcoming ads for the Super Bowl. Like, say, for example, Super Bowl 2026, there were ads basically that served kind of like trailers for upcoming ads. So there's going to be a big Super Bowl ad, and then there was pre-ads, basically kind of creating the message that, hey, there's this secret thing or secret person that's going to come out in this next ad during the Super Bowl. Got to watch the Super Bowl commercial and tune in then to watch this other ad to find out whatever it is that is going to be revealed, or whatever second part of the story is going to be demonstrated. So that's something that I really picked up on this year, and it's kind of like a Russian nesting doll ad marketing, and I figured that it would be something worth taking note of and possibly implementing, most likely implementing into our marketing strategies for Admonger and other Infinity Core affiliates and subsidiaries. So, moving on is so kind of like a weird Russian nesting doll of marketing. Consumers are watching an ad for an ad. It's basically an ad saying, hey, check out this other ad, or get ready for this upcoming ad. As of 2026, with Super Bowl spots hitting the $8 million mark for just 30 seconds, brands are terrified of being one and done. Here's the deal with those pre ad teasers and why they've become the standard: extending the shelf life. If a company spends $8 million on a 30-second slot, they're essentially paying $266,000 per second. If viewers blink or go to the kitchen for more wings, that money is gone and wasted. The strategy? By releasing trailers for the ad 2 weeks early, they turn a 30-second moment into a month-long campaign. They want you to recognize the ad the moment it starts during the game so you don't look away. Gamifying the water cooler moment. Since the Super Bowl is the only time people actually want to watch commercials, brands treat their ads like blockbuster movies. The tease: they release 15-second clips, often called teasers, that hint at a celebrity cameo without showing their face. The payoff: this builds speculation value. People on social media start guessing, is that Arnold Schwarzenegger? Or is that a Friends reunion? This generates millions of dollars in free PR before the game even starts. Cutting through the clutter. During the game, there are about 50 to 60 commercials. It's sensory overload. The familiarity effect. Psychology shows we like things more when we've seen them before. If you've seen the pre ad, your brain registers the actual Super Bowl ad as important or familiar amidst the noise of all the other brands competing for your attention. Retail and shoppability. For snack and beer brands like the 2026 mainstays Budweiser or Lay's, waiting until the game is over to show the ad is too late. They need you to see the vibe of the ad a week early. Or actually, sorry, backtracking. Waiting until the game itself, instead of showing the ad weeks early, would be too late. They need you to see the vibe of the ad a week early so that when you're at the grocery store on Friday or Saturday or the week before, you subconsciously grab their product for your watch party. In short, it's no longer about the 30 seconds on TV. It's about making sure viewers are already consumed the brand 3 times before the coin toss even happens. The grand commercial experience. This shift from selling a product to telling a saga is a sophisticated evolution of the medium. Instead of 30 seconds of noise, brands are essentially producing micro cinema. By using to be continued and multi part teasers, companies aren't just buying airtime, they're building a narrative world that viewers want to inhabit. Here's why the serialized approach is a masterclass in modern brand building: turning interruption into expectation. Traditional commercials are an interruption, something you wait to be over. By breaking a story into chapters, the brand flips the script. The psychology: When a story is left unfinished, known in psychology as the Zeigarnik effect, our brains are hardwired to seek closure. The result? You aren't just watching a soap ad, you're waiting for the next episode. This transforms the viewer from a passive recipient into an active participant who is literally looking for the brand's next move. Building brand lore. When a company uses a recurring cast of characters or continues a continuous storyline, they create lore. Investment. Much like a favorite Netflix series, you start to care about the characters and the world they live in. The halo effect. If you enjoy the story, you subconsciously transfer those positive feelings to the product. The brand stops being a faceless corporation and starts being a storyteller. Sustained mental real estate. A standard ad lives in your short term memory for a few minutes. A serialized campaign, however, sets up camp in your long term memory. The narrative thread. Because you have to remember part one to understand part two, your brain keeps the brand at the forefront of your mind for days or weeks, or possibly months. Top of mind awareness. When you're standing at a store aisle, you aren't just seeing a logo, you're recalling a narrative arc. The brand becomes the main character of that product category in your mind. Rewarding the superfan. This style of marketing creates a club atmosphere. Engagement. Viewers who have followed the to be continued trail feel like they are in on the joke when the finale finally airs, or in on the plot, or in on the story. Community, it sparks conversation. People go online to discuss theories or catch details they missed in the first teaser, turning a commercial into a shared cultural event. Evolution of the commercial. By treating the Super Bowl or any major campaign as a season premiere rather than a one off event, brands ensure they aren't just a flash in the pan, they become a recurring part of the viewer's daily conversation. The old model, or the pitch, focuses on features or benefits, and the audience is targets to be convinced. This is a transactional relationship aimed at a one-time transaction. These ads are easily ignored or skipped. The duration is approximately 30 seconds. The longevity of the ad in the consumer's memory is typically ends when the 30 seconds are up, or right after. And then the problem leads directly to a solution, typically is explained in the marketing. But for the new model, or the saga model of advertisements, we focus on character and emotion. The audience is instead of targets, they are fans to be engaged. The relationship is more relational, aimed at a long-term relationship. The commercial and then subsequent commercials as well are purposefully sought out for what happens next. The duration for this is 4 to 6 week campaign window. So multiple commercials are going to have a series, and then the longevity of the memory of it for consumers is that ideally it would live on through anticipation and lore, ideally staying in people's minds for days, weeks, months, and so on. And then in the new model, or the saga, instead of just a problem or solution, we introduce characters and conflict and cliffhangers. Serialized storytelling isn't just a marketing tactic, it's the evolution of brand loyalty into a fandom. When a company moves away from one off commercials and toward a continuous narrative arc, they stop being a vendor and start being a producer of cultural content. Here are a few iconic and recent examples of brands that have mastered the to be continued mentality to keep themselves at the forefront of the public's memory. The Dunking saga, Dunkin'. So this is all these are going to be a few examples of different campaigns used by companies to promote their products that typically introduce characters and introduced a sort of lore to attract awareness and attention to their products. So the Dunkings saga for Dunkin' Donuts, or now just called Dunkin'. Dunkin' has turned the Super Bowl into a season finale for a multi-month narrative. The story? It began with Ben Affleck auditioning for various roles, which led to his quest to become a pop star with the Dun Kings musical group, and continued with post-game episodes showing the aftermath of the band's failure. The result? Viewers weren't just watching a coffee ad, they were following a character arc. By the time the game ended, the to be continued energy had moved to social media where fans tracked the lore of the brand, keeping Dunkin' relevant for months instead of seconds. The Dilly Dilly universe by Bud Light. This is a prime example of building a whole entire world rather than just a campaign. The story, set in a medieval fantasy world, these ads featured recurring characters like the King, the Bud Knight, and the Wizard. Each ad was a new chapter in the kingdom's history, often ending with cliffhangers or new character introductions. The result? It created a shared vocabulary and a desire to see what would happen to the Bud Knight next. By the time they killed off the character in a crossover with Game of Thrones, it felt like a major TV event rather than a commercial break. Progressive's parentomorphosis, or Dr. Rick. So Progressive moved away from just selling insurance features to creating a relatable, serialized sitcom centered on Dr. Rick helping people not turn into their parents. The story? Each commercial is a new lesson in an ongoing curriculum. Because the scenarios are so consistent and the character of Dr. Rick is so established, viewers anticipate the next lesson like they would a new episode of a favorite comedy. The result? This creates top of mind awareness. When you see someone struggling with the QR code in real life, you think of Dr. Rick, which means you are thinking of Progressive. The story lives in your head long after the TV is off. Apple's Underdog series. Apple created a mini movies franchise called The Underdogs, or the whole working from home thing. The story? It follows a specific team of four colleagues trying to finish a project against impossible deadlines. Instead of listing iPhone specs, Apple shows the products being used to solve plot points in the characters' lives. The result? Because the audience is invested in the team, they watch the 8-minute episodes on YouTube voluntarily. It creates a series mentality where fans wait for the next installment to see how the team handles their next corporate crisis. Why this works for the forefront of memory. By creating commercials as a larger series, these companies ensure that you aren't just hearing from them, you're waiting to hear from them. The cliffhanger effect, much like the first cinematic serials like The Adventures of Kathleen in 1913, unresolved narratives create a mental loop that our brain wants to close. You don't just remember the product, you remember the problem the story hasn't solved yet. Identity association. When you follow a series of ads, you start to identify with the characters. You aren't just a consumer of the product, you're a fan of the brand's perspective on the world. Consistency as trust. A brand that can tell a coherent story over 12 months appears more stable, creative, and human than a brand that just shouts different discount at you every week. So far, we have a concept rating. The overall concept rating is 92 out of 100, so A minus right off the bat. This concept solves two of the biggest problems in the industry: ad avoidance and fragmented attention. By turning ads into events, brands bypass the consumer's natural defense mechanisms against being sold to. The only reason it isn't a 100 is the burnout factor. In other words, if every brand does this, the meta ad becomes the new clutter. Concept rating, viability. This is an 88 out of 100, B plus so far. So as of right now, we got a B plus. While highly effective for mega brands such as Apple, Budweiser, or State Farm, the viability scales with budget. A saga requires world-class writing, celebrity talent, and massive media buys to ensure the teaser actually reaches the audience. For a mid-sized company, an ad for an ad risks being an ad that nobody saw for an ad that nobody cares about. Transmedia storytelling, or long-form narrative branding. In an era of $8 million price tags and skippable digital ads, the commercial has died, and the content franchise has taken its place. By creating a 30-second spot as an episode installation with an inevitable season finale rather than a standalone event, brands are effectively hacking the human brain's affinity for narrative and closure. The adverse as risk mitigation. The ad for an ad, or meta advertising, is a financial hedge. When a brand spends $266,000 per second, the primary enemy is inattention. The family heuristic. Our point about the familiarity effect is backed by the psychological principle that humans prefer stimuli that they have been previously exposed to. By the time the actual season finale ad airs, the viewer's brain switches from analyze new information, which is taxing, to recognize and confirm, which is rewarding. Digital multiplier. These teasers aren't just for TV. They are designed to go viral on TikTok and YouTube weeks prior. This turns a linear TV buy into an omni-channel digital campaign with a much lower effective cost per mile, or eCPM. The Zeigarnik effect and narrative loops. The Zeigarnik effect is the tendency to remember uncompleted tasks or interrupted stories better than completed ones. By using the to be continued uh, strategy, brands create a cognitive itch. The only way for the consumer to scratch that itch is to tune in during the game or the main event. This transforms the viewer from a passive target into an active seeker. The brand no longer has to find the consumer is looking for the brand to find out what happened to the character or characters. The lore economy, the shift from pitch to saga builds brand equity that is resistant to price wars. If you are a fan of the Dr. Rick or Dunkings lore, you have an emotional tether to the brand. You aren't just buying insurance or coffee, you are subscribing to a creative world. This creates a moat around the brand that functional advertising cannot achieve. The missing link, data integration. As of 2026, the next evolution of this adverse is interactive serialization. Brands are starting to use teasers that lead to AR or augmented reality experiences where the viewer can influence the finale of the Super Bowl ad. Additions, subtractions, and modifications. This concept is exceptionally strong because it treats advertising as IP or intellectual property rather than just a sales pitch. However, to move this from a Russian nesting doll tactic to a universal marketing strategy, there are some critical refinements to consider. Suggested additions, the force multipliers. First is the second screen scavenger hunt. Add a layer of gamification. If a brand is building lore, they should hide Easter eggs in the 15-second teasers that can only be solved or unlocked on social media or through an app. This turns the adverse into an interactive game, increasing the time spent with the brand. The after action report, or the post game lore. Most brands stop once the 30-second spot airs. To truly maximize the saga, there should be a part 3 or epilogue released 24 hours after the big event. This captures the post-game conversation and prevents the one and done drop-off. Crowdsourced canon, allow the audience to vote on the ending of a teaser. If the Dun King or season finale. If the Dun Kings are auditioning, let the internet vote on who gets kicked out of the band or who stays or who wins. This creates a sense of ownership in the narrative. Suggested subtractions, the fat trimming. Subtract the product heavy teaser. A common mistake is trying to sell the product's features in the 15-second teaser. Subtract the sales pitch entirely from the pre-ads. The teaser should be 100% character and mystery. If you try to sell a vacuum cleaner while teasing a celebrity cameo, you break the blockbuster movie illusion. Subtract platform mirroring. Don't just post the same 15-second TV clip to TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and so on. The adverse should feel native to each platform. Subtract the high production feel or for social media and make it look like leaked footage or behind the scenes footage to increase authenticity. Critical modifications, from cliffhanger to choice. Modify the to be continued model into a branching narrative. Instead of one 30-second ad, produce 3 possible endings. The teaser directs people to vote, and the winning ad is what actually airs during the game. That could cost more if we actually film them and then don't even air the other 2. Or we could film them and then air the other 2 on like YouTube or something. Because that'd be confusing if we release all the different endings on air, because people are going to be like, well, what's the actual ending? Or maybe that could cause people to talk about it more. Or that could confuse people. And I don't know. I'm kind of leaning towards maybe having one final ending that's voted on by audience members actually aired on TV, while the other 2 are filmed. Yes, that's going to cost money, but we want a little bit of return on investment from that at least 2. So go ahead and air those maybe on YouTube or TikTok or other social media platforms. Or maybe release one version on each platform. I don't know. We can film a few different options, but I can already see like the filming process just being costly. So just trying to put a little side note in there, a little sidebar. All right. The teaser directs people to vote, and the winning ad is what actually airs during the game. The micro influencer narrator. Instead of the brand telling the story, to have unaffiliated influencers investigate the teaser as if it's a conspiracy theory. Oh, hold on, sorry. Instead of the brand telling the story, have unaffiliated influencers investigate the teaser as if it's a conspiracy theory. There we go. This modifies the brand to consumer flow into a consumer to consumer flow, which is much more credible to Gen Z and Gen Alpha. Factors jeopardizing feasibility, the red flags. While the adverse is brilliant, several factors could cause it to collapse. First, the wait, who is that for trap or attribution loss. The biggest risk of micro cinema is that people remember the story but forget the brand. The risk: if the lore of the Bud Night is too entertaining, people might talk about the night for weeks but walk into a store and buy Miller Lite. The product must be the hero or the key to the plot, not just a logo in the corner. Narrative fatigue, the Marvel effect. Just as audiences have started to experience superhero fatigue, they can experience ad saga fatigue. The risk: if every brand is doing a 4-week to be continued campaign, the consumer's mental bandwidth will max out. They will stop seeking the closure and start muting the noise. The celebrity liability. These sagas almost always rely on high-priced talent, such as Affleck, Schwarzenegger, etc. The risk: if the celebrity at the center of your saga gets canceled or involved in a scandal during the 2-week teaser window, your $20 million campaign, production, and media becomes radioactive overnight. Unlike a one-off ad, a saga is much harder to pull from circulation. Production lag time and real-time trends. The adverse requires months of planning. The risk here is that contemporarily in 2026, the cultural vibe shifts in days. A narrative planned for October for a February airing might feel cringe or outdated by the time it actually hits the air if a major cultural shift occurs in the interim. Prospective partnerships, creative and technical partners, or the architects, specialized production houses. We need more than an ad agency. We need a studio with episodic storytelling experience. Think TV showrunners or film directors. They ensure that the lore remains consistent across chapters. Talent agencies, since these campaigns often hinge on celebrity characters like Ben Affleck for Duncan, you need ironclad contracts that secure the talent for the entire duration of the saga, including social media in-character posts. Transmedia strategists, experts who specialize in bridging the gap between a TV trailer or a TV teaser and a digital ARG or alternate reality game or a social media payoff. The most important partner you'll need is a centralized narrative lead or CNL. In traditional ads, the brand manager handles everything. In an adverse campaign, we need someone who functions like a creative director at Marvel. Someone whose only job is to make sure that the retailer, the delivery service, and the TV ad are all telling the exact same story. Third-party services and affiliates, the amplifiers, social media platforms such as Meta, TikTok, or X. You need direct partnerships with these platforms to coordinate leaked content and ensure your teasers aren't flagged as spam or low quality when they are released in rapid succession. Data analytics firms. To measure the Zeigarnik effect, you need partners who can track cross-platform sentiment. Are people actually searching for the payoff, or are they just watching the teaser? Legal and compliance firms. Adverse advertising often walks the line of truth in advertising. For example, if a teaser hints at a feature that isn't in the final product, that could be risky. We need regulators or legal teams to vet meta marketing to ensure it doesn't cross into deceptive practices. Retailers and wholesalers, the physical payoff. Key retailers such as Walmart, Target, and Kroger. If the ad vibe is meant to drive store traffic before the game, you need in store narrative tie ins. For example, QR codes on end caps that show a secret chapter for the ad available only to shoppers. Wholesalers, they need to be aligned with the inventory surge that happens during the tease phase, not just the game phase. If your ad goes viral 2 weeks early, the product needs to be on the shelves then. Stockholders and investors, the capital. Institutional investors, you need to sell the long tail ROI or return on investment. Investors often get nervous about costly spends. You must partner with them to explain that the cost is amortized over a month-long campaign, not a 30-second window, which significantly lowers the risk per impression. Delivery services, the last mile narrative. This could include DoorDash, Uber Eats, or what's the other one? Postmates. Partnering with delivery services to offer saga bundles. The concept: if a viewer watches the teaser, they get a code for a Super Bowl box that arrives on game day, effectively turning the delivery person into a character in the brand's lore. What resources and materials are required to make this concept work? Resources and materials, production and creative assets, the content. We need a serialized script Bible. Unlike the standard 30-second script, we need a showrunner's Bible that maps out the narrative arc across a 2-week teaser phase, the grand finale, and the post-game epilogue. Variable length video masters. For teasers, they could be 5 to 15 seconds. This would be vertical first, so the layout of it would be vertical first, or 9 to 16 ratio for TikTok Reels, and horizontal 16 to 9 ratio for YouTube or TV. The anchor would be 30 to second commercial. The anchor would be 30 to 60 seconds. This would be the high fidelity Super Bowl spot or the high price airtime. And then next after that would be the extended cut, or another version of that would be the extended cut, which could be 2 to 3 minutes or more. This would be a cinematic version for YouTube or TikTok or any social media platform that allows long form content to satisfy super fans. Talent licensing are multi-platform rights. Contracts must include likeness rights for AI-powered personalization and social media in-character interaction, not just the TV broadcast. Technical and digital infrastructure, the adverse. Transmedia management software. Tools like Monday.com or specialized agency platforms to coordinate the exact second a teaser drops across the 10 plus social channels. Personalization engines. If your concept includes lore, you may need generative AI tools to create modular variations of the ad. For instance, an ad that swaps the background of a teaser based on the viewer's geographic location, for example, showing a Phoenix skyline for Arizona viewers. Interactive landing pages. This would be a hub where users can close the loop of the Zeigarnik effect. This requires high bandwidth hosting to handle Super Bowl spikes and potentially AR or augmented reality assets that let the users enter the ads world via their phones. Financial and legal resources, the shield. For capital reserve, we'd likely need $12 million to $20 million total. Again, this is also considering that we're doing this Super Bowl slot as our season finale. So it's basically considering a maximum budget or maximum financial allocation. So the $8 million would be for the Super Bowl airtime. $2 million to $5 million would be for high-end productions such as directors, crews, and VFX. And then another $1 to $3 million would be for pre-game social media amplification and buying or buying digital billboards across the web. So at least 10 to 15 million. Insurance, the celebrity or event. This is the key person. Hold on, sorry. So insurance for the celebrity event, the key person insurance is vital. If our saga's lead actor becomes unavailable during the 2-week tease, the entire $20 million investment is at risk. Compliance legal counsel. To ensure teasers don't violate bait and switch advertising laws or social media platform specific guidelines on spam like frequent posting, we have physical and logistical materials, the real world, narrative packaging, limited edition product packaging that mirrors the lore of the ad. For example, the Dun Kings branded tracksuits or the Dr. Rick instructional coasters, retail end caps or QR displays, physical signage for grocery stores, such as Frito-Lay or Budweiser mainstays that act as part 1.5 of the story. Cold chain or last mile inventory. For food and beverage, the resource is actually surplus stock. The adverse builds demand 2 weeks early, so you must ensure wholesalers have teaser window stock ready before the actual game day. Commercial and ad schedule. Because the goal is to move from interruption to expectation, the timing of each drop is as critical as the content itself. If your day 14 leak doesn't get initial traction, the rest of the dominoes won't fall. You need a seed budget to force the initial viral momentum. Here's our 14-day adverse deployment checklist. The 14-day countdown from teaser to saga. Phase 1, the cognitive itch, days 14 to 10. So it's like days negative 14 to 10. So this is like game day right here. This is like days 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, coming to day 0. So it's like negative 14, day negative 14. So 14 days before the game. So day 14, the goal is to build mystery and trigger the Zeigarnik effect. On day 14, there is the leak. Released found footage style, a found footage style clip on TikTok or X. It shouldn't look like a commercial. It should look like a grainy 6-second cell phone video of a celebrity on set or a mysterious prop. On day 12, we have the official teaser, part 1. This is where we launch the 15-second cinematic teaser. This will include, for content, this would establish the world and the conflict. The call to action, this would be at the end, there would be the to be continued, and then possibly a date for part 2. On day 10, retail activation. Physical end caps in stores like Kroger or Target go live. These feature QR codes that offer a extended look at part 1, rewarding the superfans who engage in the real world. Phase 2, the speculation value on days -9 to -4, so 9 to 4 days before the main event. Our goal here is to generate free PR and water cooler conversation. On day 8, the reveal, or part 2, this is where we drop the second 15-second teaser. The content, reveal the celebrity's face or the hero, but leave their mission or the product's role unresolved. The action, launch a social media poll. What happens next? Day 6, the lore expansion. Release side quest content. This is micro content featuring secondary characters or behind the scenes Dr. Rick style lessons that flesh out the world without giving away the ending. If part 2 feels like it belongs to a different story than part 1, the lore breaks and the audience tunes out. Day 4, logistics check. Ensure delivery partners such as DoorDash or Uber Eats have the saga bundles in their systems and wholesalers have flooded the shelves for the upcoming weekend surge. Phase 3, the main event. This would be day 3. The goal here would be day 3 up until game day. The goal here would be conversion and narrative closure and impact. On day 2, the pre-game hype. We have a 5-second tomorrow countdown ad across all digital platforms. On game day morning, we release a final clue on Instagram or X or other social media. During the big game or the finale, the 30-second anchor spot airs. The content would include the payoff and the conflict from the teasers that is resolved using the product as the catalyst. The feeling the consumer gets is the audience feels a click of satisfaction because they have solved a 14-day mystery. If the or 14-day or longer. If the mystery is high stakes, but the payoff, the product feels tacked on, you've made a great short film, but a terrible commercial. So you can't just create a great story. You got to create a good product and an explanation for the product. Phase four, the after action report or the post game. The goal here is retention and long term memory or legacy. On day one, so the first day after and onwards, after the main event, we have the epilogue. This is where we release a morning after clip or a subsequent clip. This is where we show the characters dealing with the aftermath of the season finale ad. This keeps the brand in the conversation for the Monday ad recap news cycle. Budgeting and financial strategy. To make the adverse financially viable, we must shift our perspective from a single marketing expense to a multi-week media investment. Because we're essentially producing a miniseries, our budgeting must account for high-frequency digital touchpoints leading up to the linear TV finale. Business objectives, the KPIs or key performance indicators. For a high-price investment, the objective must go beyond a simple brand awareness. Maximizing attention sex. Instead of 30 seconds of attention, the goal is to secure 300 plus seconds of total attention per consumer over a 14-day window. Reducing cost per interaction, or CPI. By using cheap social media teasers to drive people toward the expensive finale spot, you lower the overall cost of getting consumers to care about the brand. Cost determinants, where the money goes. Production premium. Creating high fidelity saga content often costs $2 to $5 million. You are paying for movie quality VFX and A-list celebrity talent that can carry a narrative. Digital amplification. A $1 to $3 million seed budget is needed to ensure our leaked teasers actually reach the masses on TikTok, X, and YouTube. Talent usage fees. Modern contracts for the adverse must cover 14 days or more of social media likeness, not just the one-day broadcast. Discounts and rebates, offsetting the cost. Bundled media buys. Networks like CBS, NBC, or Fox often offer discounts if you buy pre-game or post-game slots alongside your main Super Bowl spot. Tax credits for production. If you film your saga in states with film incentives like Georgia or New Mexico, you can recoup 20 to 30% of your production costs. Co-branding rebates. A snack brand like Lay's and a beverage brand like Budweiser could share the adverse lore, splitting the ad cost while appearing in each other's chapters. The financial waterfall strategy. To justify this budget to stockholders, you must show how the saga model creates a more efficient spend than the old model. We have 4 different phases here. First is the teaser phase or the digital phase. This would be $2.5 million and would include high frequency, low cost hooks. The big game trailer or linear TV spot would cost about $8 million and it would be the massive cultural finale. During the post-game or social PR phase, this would be $1 million and ideally would cause long-tail memory and viral recaps. So total investment would be approximately $11.5 million, and the result would be that it would cost about 3 cents per attentive second. 3% of a dollar. Feasibility factor, the sunk cost trap. The biggest financial risk is the mid-saga pivot. If your day 12 teaser fails to get engagement, you cannot easily change the day 0 Super Bowl ad. You are financially locked into the narrative. To mitigate this, you must have contingency edits or alternate versions of the teasers that can be swapped if the initial narrative isn't clicking with the audience. Ideally, we do test audiences. So we would have screenings um, and basically test it out with, I forget the exact term for it, but screenings where we do surveys and polls, invite people to see the trailer. Was it not case study, group study or group case study, group survey? Either way, we're going to get a bunch of people. They're going to watch it, and we could maybe get them to sign NDAs. Is that something people do? I wonder if that's something people do when they are marketing a product, trying to do research on the product to see if people like it. Do they make them sign NDAs so they can't talk about the product? I don't know. We might need to research that. I'll try to keep that in mind. I might do that right after I'm done with this video. It's actually something worth looking into. All right. Where were we? 0.3%. Mid-second pivot. Finally, she locked into the narrative. Contingency edits. All right. Splitting ad costs with business partners or cross-marketing cost allocation. Narrative synergy is where two seemingly unrelated brands share a problem that only their combined products can solve. When splitting costs, companies typically look at the share of voice, or SOV, or screen time. But in a saga style adverse, the split often happens between production, the creative, and media, or the airtime. Example one, the Smart Commute saga. Partners would be Rivian, the EV manufacturer, and Starbucks, a quick service retail chain. The concept, a serialized road trip mystery. The driver is trying to reach a destination across a vast, beautiful wilderness. The teasers show the Rivian vehicle navigating tough terrain while the driver desperately looks for a recharge. The payoff is that the recharge isn't just for the car, or in other words, Rivian's charging network. It's for the driver, a Starbucks cold brew. So cost allocation for production. So overall budget allocation for Rivian would be 60%, Starbucks for 40%. Starbucks likely being the smaller portion because Starbucks isn't revealed until the very end season finale, where the Rivian finally gets to the Starbucks and the driver orders the Starbucks and feels super happy because now they've quenched their thirst. They were parched before. The payoff. The recharge. So for production, our Rivian 60% covers about 80% vehicle stunts and VFX. Okay, so Rivian 60% covers 80% of production since vehicle stunts and VFX are pricey. Starbucks' 40% contribution covers about 20% of production. This is for product placement and talent. Rivian's 60% contribution covers about 40% of media buy. This would be for targeting tech and outdoors. And then Starbucks contributes 40%, covering about 60% of the media buy. This would be for mass market reach. Rivian gets lifestyle credibility from this, and Starbucks gets adventure positioning. Okay. So Starbucks seems more adventurous since it's tied with the Rivian, and the Rivian seems like it has more awareness and credibility when it comes to different lifestyles and interests and things like that. Example two, the home defense saga. The partners here would be Ring Home Security and DoorDash delivery service. The concept is this commercial would be a comedy thriller titled The Package. The teasers, multiple Ring camera style clips show various people and animals approaching a front porch, eyeing a mysterious steaming hot bag. The to be continued asks, who gets the bag? The payoff, the Ring alert goes off on the owner's phone. They use the two-way talk feature to tell a raccoon to back off just as the owner arrives home to enjoy their meal. Cost allocation, Ring and DoorDash are both contributing about 50% on this one, so even split. For production, Ring would cover the tech aesthetics and app UI or user interface. For DoorDash, their 50% would cover food styling and delivery logistics. The equal 50-50 split would, or the for media buy, the Ring and DoorDash would contribute an equal 50-50 split. Now, why? For Rings and DoorDash, both brands live at the front door. This is a battle for the threshold. In example 3, the Deep Sea Saga. Partners here are Rolex, which sells luxury watches, and Patagonia, which sells sustainable apparel. The concept for this commercial is that it is a high-end nature documentary style saga. The teasers follow an explorer wearing Patagonia diving into an ocean trench. The teasers focus on the pressure and the time remaining associated with Rolex. The payoff is that the explorer successfully retrieves a biological sample, or maybe a jewel or a diamond for the watch or bracelet or other things Rolex makes. The payoff, the explorer successfully retrieves a biological sample. It is a silent cinematic masterpiece where the lore is about durability and legacy. Cost allocation for Rolex and Patagonia. For Rolex would be about 70%, Patagonia would be 30%, so a little bit more of a disproportionate contribution there. So that's another good example. Rolex's 70% would cover high-end underwater cinematography during production, and then Patagonia's 30% contribution would cover would provide all technical gear and site access for production. For Rolex, they would cover the $8 million Super Bowl slot, while Patagonia would cover the 2-week digital advocacy campaign. Now, why? Rolex buys the legacy airtime, while Patagonia provides the purpose and ethics. Financial split framework. If you were to pitch this to these organizations, you would use one of these 3 models. The equity split, model 1, where costs are divided based on who has more screen time. That's our first example there. The mutual benefit split in model 2, which is a flat 50-50 split because both brands are vying for the same mental real estate, which would be the front door in example 2. And then in example 3, we had the integration split, which is our third model. One partner pays for the production or the movie, while the other pays for the media or the theater. One crucial modification would be the joint venture LLC. For these partnerships to work without messy accounting, companies often form temporary joint venture or JV, or a temporary joint venture JV specifically for the campaign. This LLC owns the lore and the characters, allowing both brands to use the assets for their respective social media channels without infringing on each other's primary copyrights. Now, for regulatory and compliance, regulatory and legal compliance. Our strategy here would be to pull off a multi-week, multi-platform adverse saga. In order to do this, we aren't just navigating marketing laws. We're navigating entertainment, privacy, and contract laws. Because your ads are connected over time and platforms, a failure in one chapter can trigger a legal domino effect for the entire campaign. Here's the comprehensive strategy to ensure the saga remains compliant and protected. Legal and regulatory obstacles. The adverse creates unique legal challenges because it blurs the line between entertainment and advertising. Truth in advertising, enforced by the FTC. The bait and switch and substantiation. Because the adverse builds massive anticipation through mystery, there is a risk of legal anticlimax. If a teaser creates a mystery that implies a product can do something it can't, it could be flagged as deceptive even if the finale clarifies it. The regulation, marketing cannot be unfair or deceptive. If a teaser implies a revolutionary product feature to get people to watch the finale ad and the feature doesn't exist, it's a violation. The strategy, the lore must be substantiated. If your teaser shows a vehicle like the Rivian in our previous example performing a specific feat, that feat must be technically possible or clearly labeled as a dramatization in the footer of the teaser. The risk: astroturfing fines and class action lawsuits for false promise if the payoff of the saga is perceived as a lie rather than a story. Endorsement disclosures: if leaked footage is actually paid for by the brand, it must be properly disclosed. For example, hashtag ad. Or the brand faces massive fines for astroturfing or fake grassroots marketing. The astroturfing and disclosure wall. In an adverse campaign, you often use leaked footage or influencer investigations to build mystery. The regulation: the FTC, or Federal Trade Commission, requires that any material connection between the brand and a content creator must be clearly disclosed. The strategy: avoid dark marketing. Even if the footage looks like a leak, influencers must use hashtag ad or insert your given ad there, or hashtag brand partnership. To maintain the saga feel without breaking the fourth wall, use in universe disclosures. For example, the influencer can say, I was sent this by insert brand name, and I'm losing my mind over it. Whoa. The risk: fines for deceptive marketing can reach hundreds of thousands of dollars per post if the audience is led to believe the saga is a real world event rather than a scripted campaign. SAG, AFTRA, or SAG-AFTRA regulations and talent continuity. When you move from a 30-second TV spot to a 14, sorry, that's some on my screen. When you move from a 30-second TV spot to a 14-day or more saga involving TikToks, Instagram Reels, and behind-the-scenes lore, you're entering complex union territory. The to be continued model requires careful negotiation with the actors union regarding social media usage and broadcast usage. The regulation: standard commercial contracts often cover only the broadcast. The strategy: we must secure multi-platform transmedia rights up front. You must ensure the actors are cleared for in-character social media use. The modification: you must also include digital likeness or AI protection clauses. If you use AI to personalize teasers for different regions, the talent must be compensated for generative usage of their voice or face. Intellectual property, or IP, and the joint venture. When the two companies like Starbucks and Rivian partner for a saga, they are creating a narrative world. The regulation: copyright law generally assigns ownership to the creator. The strategy: establish a campaign LLC or a joint IP agreement. Define who owns the characters created for the ad after the campaign ends. Establish non-compete windows where neither brand can use the saga-specific lore with a competitor for a set period. For example, Rivian cannot do a saga with Duncan for 12 months. Privacy and data, the lore personalization. If you use QR codes in stores or interactive teasers to track who is following the saga, you are collecting first-party data. The regulation: CCPA/GDPR. This is for California or Europe. You cannot track a user's journey through the nesting doll of ads without explicit consent. The strategy: use value exchange consent. When a user scans a QR code to see part 2 of the saga early, include a clear one-click opt-in, which would say, join the brand insider list to see the finale first. The benefit: this transforms a legal requirement into a lead generation tool. Nice. Sweepstakes and gamification law. If the adverse includes a guess the ending or find the clue contest to win a prize, you are legally running a sweepstakes. The regulation: state laws, specifically New York and Florida, require registration for high-value prizes. The strategy: draft official rules that are accessible from every single teaser. Avoid pay-to-play. The audience must be able to follow the lore and enter the contest without buying the product, otherwise it is legally considered an illegal lottery. We have two different elevator pitches here. The maximum ROI, or return on investment pitch. The focus is on financial efficiency and attentional real estate. As of 2026, a 30-second Super Bowl spot costs $8 million. That's $266,000 per second. Most brands treat this as a one and done gamble. Our adverse strategy transforms that 30-second expense into a multi month asset. By deploying a serialized Russian nesting doll of pre ad teasers, we trigger the Zeigarnik effect, the human brain's biological need to see an unfinished story through to the end. We aren't just buying 30 seconds of airtime, we're securing 2 weeks of top of mind awareness and ensuring that by the time our ad airs, the audience isn't just watching, they're waiting for the payoff. We're moving the needle from passive views to active seeker engagement, effectively cutting our cost per attentive second by approximately 90%. Second elevator pitch, the narrative lore pitch. The focus here is on cultural impact and brand loyalty. Traditional advertising is an interruption. The adverse is an invitation. We are evolving the commercial from a pitch into a saga. By treating our campaign like a blockbuster movie franchise, complete with leaked footage, character arcs, and to be continued cliffhangers, we build brand lore. This strategy turns consumers into fans who voluntarily seek out our content. When you move from selling a product to telling a story, you bypass ad blockers and cynical skip buttons. We aren't just a faceless corporation, we become a producer of cultural content that lives in the viewer's long term memory, creating an emotional moat around the brand that no competitor can cross with a simple discount. Finally, here we have an executive summary, the adverse marketing concept. The adverse, or ad for an ad concept, represents the evolution of traditional advertising into high-stakes, serialized narrative, aserialized narrative ecosystem. The core pillars of this strategy: the Zeigarnik effect, or narrative loops, by realizing serialized teaser, by realizing, whoops, by releasing serialized teasers weeks before a major event, brands create an unresolved cognitive loop. This forces the consumer's brain to seek closure, moving them from a passive viewer to an active seeker of the brand's content. Transmedia storytelling. The adverse functions like a Russian nesting doll. It utilizes fragmented clues across TikTok, AR experiences, and retail end caps to build a comprehensive brand lore that culminates in a televised finale. De-risking the investment. Instead of a one-off gamble, the budget is amortized across a multi-week or multi-month window. This increases attentive seconds from 30 seconds to over 300 seconds per consumer and drives retail velocity before the commercial even airs. Strategic co-branding. By forming narrative joint ventures, non-competing brands, for example Rivian or Starbucks, can split the massive media and production costs while doubling their combined cultural reach. The bottom line: the adverse isn't just a marketing tactic, it's a survival mechanism for the modern media landscape. It shifts the brand's role from a vendor to a storyteller, ensuring that the consumer isn't just hearing the message, they are invested in the outcome. All right, got a bunch of concept photos here. Finally, hashtags. We got hashtag adverse, hashtag brand storytelling, hashtag future of advertising, hashtag narrative loop. I'm not going to keep on saying hashtag. I'm just going to go hashtag and then narrative marketing, serialized marketing, story-driven marketing, transmedia storytelling, Zeigarnik effect, the insert your brand name lore, for example, a hashtag Rivian lore, and then the hashtag your campaign name. So hashtag save the world or something like that. All right, so that is the adverse. So that is something that we definitely want to go ahead and implement for our campaign, our marketing strategies, marketing campaigns. So go ahead and add that onto Instagram. You should be able to find that on Instagram shortly. Go ahead and post that there. Thank you so much for watching. And what is next? I'm going to start setting up the videos where I actually end the video saying what might be next. So I should have something lined up. Right now, I have like 5 different ones I'm working on, so can't tell you which one right now will be next, but it'll be good. Promise you that. All right. Ooh, under an hour this time. Last one was 4 hours. Jeez. We did good. Felt like longer. All right. Arrivederci, y'all.